is Lisa.
I am Juliet. How's it going?
And we are Cryptid Women's Society. Welcome to our live. Nice to see you all here. We are live on YouTube. And we are live on Instagram. Woo woo!
And Lisa's faces are frozen.
Oh my God, yay me.
Let me know. We're having as we always do.
So proud of us right now. So proud of us. Look, you know, you get what you get and you don't get upset. It's just the way life is.
Oh my God, where's that bloody saying come from? The kids say it all the time.
Where does the what, sorry?
That saying come from.
You get what you get. Oh, mate, it is kindergarten 101.
Yeah,
I know that.
I know. Hang on.
Kindergarten 101. Nice one.
Yeah, I'm coming.
I'm just going to jump into our live on Instagram. Oh, let's turn that sound down. Today we get to talk about Bigfoot and Yowies, and I'm so excited because it's one of my favorite topics, and I'm pretty sure it's one of Juliet's favorite topics also, because we love cryptids, like it's in the name, and we love hairy men. So, you know, like, it works together.
Wow.
It's a double.
Speak for yourself.
I know you love hairy men too, let's be honest. Hey, Juliet, Susie is here over on Instagram. Hey, Suze, what's going on? How you doing, girl? So glad you got here. She said that she was working, so she is either working and slacking off right now, or she's managed to get
Who's
home.
Susie is, or was it Kelsey?
Oh, Susan.
Oh, naughty Susie. Don't worry, I do that at work sometimes too.
Yeah.
Lives and
Oh yes, it's she does it quite often, and I tell you what, Juliet often will have a business meeting in the middle of her workday. Just ask Mike. He knows because he was the guy. Oh, she says, Susie says she's totally slacking. We're proud of you, girl. Well done.
Yeah.
So we've managed to iron out some of the technical difficulties. Juliet's microphone is still a bit shithouse, but we will get to that at some point and fix her. And also we might get her a light because she looks like she's sitting in a dungeon. I mean, seriously. We'll see how we go. We're slowly getting there.
Dark, like everything's dark. No, I don't know.
Do you know what though? I've got a light in front of me, and that's a game changer because I've got my curtains shut and I'm sitting in a closet. Actually, I'm sitting in the wardrobe. And we like to pretend that this is the office, but it's actually just a wardrobe, yeah. So, you know, this is where we film right now, and this is just what happens with business, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time business is created in your backyard or in your garage or in one of the secret rooms in your house, like your wardrobe. And it's just what it is until it gets going. What are you doing?
There. She's like, no.
It's just as crap, yeah. Just as crap. Just as shit. But that's cool. So hey Juliet, we're talking about Bigfoot and Yowies today. What's your favorite thing about a Bigfoot or a Yowie?
Does it make a good rug on the floor, maybe?
Oh my!
No,
and no, wait, hang on a second. So there are many people that don't know about you and beavers. Tell everyone the story about what you'd like to do with a beaver.
I don't want to do anything with a beaver, but I just think about getting a beaver blanket. So all my conservation and my animal conservation.
She'd like a beaver blanket.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Yeah. She wants to stroke her beaver while she's in bed. Is that stroke it?
Lisa, just every time, Lisa, you just take it down.
And do you know, I was so upset before before we started this live, and now feeling really great. I just feel so much better now. We've gone straight to beavers. But
Sorry,
that's
Susie.
the fact that Susie's still with us is impressive. Well done, girl. She's still here. She hasn't left yet.
No, I love, like, it's, I think Bigfoot's one of the ones that, it's one of the biggest things that can get you into cryptids.
Sure.
Everybody knows about Bigfoot and Yowies and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, man. Bigfoot's like a gateway drug, right? He's a gateway cryptid. He gets you into all the other cryptids, right? If you know about Bigfoot, then you slowly kind of go down other paths to different places in the cryptid world, right?
Yeah, and it's that fascination, like we've always had, is this little giant wandering around? It's just that's fascinating.
Is he still in the forest, right? And it freaks you out a little bit to think that giant creature could be walking around there and walking around with you.
Yeah, watching you.
Watching
you. In the bush and coming to eerie situations where basically, there's nothing around. Even in New Zealand, there's nothing to get you. You just that you're not in the right place, and then you leave.
Yeah, very clear feeling that you needed to go, right?
Yeah.
And let alone hearing growls or wood knocks or bangs or having stones hurled at you or anything like that. Like that feeling of I shouldn't be here is probably enough to send you on your way, right?
Yeah.
So I love Bigfoot, and it certainly wasn't a love of mine a couple of years ago. It didn't even cross my mind. I was like, yeah, Bigfoot, sure, whatever. I never watched those Bigfoot shows. I kind of probably had a bit of a fascination with UFOs and that sort of stuff, and UFOs probably got me into kind of cryptids more because I was like, cryptids, whatever, that's just, mythological creatures or whatever. But the connection between the UFOs being seen and Bigfoot and Dogman and that sort of stuff started me kind of on that.
Basically.
100%, right? There's stories of Bigfoot flying UFOs, and I was like, yeah, man, that's free choice. But there's a lot of sightings, right? A lot of encounters of and sightings of Bigfoot, and then having UFOs or orbs floating around, that sort of stuff, and like hundreds, if not thousands of those sort of sightings, right?
So many times, you can't deny it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was listening to a YouTube video the other day by a New Zealand Bigfoot hunter, and he interviewed a guy very up north in the Uruweras and around that sort of area, which is very, very up north of New Zealand. And he was talking about how they have Bigfoot up there, and they have he's had encounters of seeing UFOs and orbs and that sort of stuff alongside these Bigfoot, and then cow mutilations in the same space and all that sort of stuff. So I found that really interesting because I thought that was an American thing. You always kind of go, okay, so that happens in America because I've seen that on TV or whatever, and you don't make those connections that it's actually in different parts of the world as well. And as I kind of started researching this topic, and trying to find those little connections between the South Pacific, and that's what we always try and do, right, Jules? Try and find those connections between the South Pacific through to the Northern Hemisphere. And I was just like, oh, far out. There's actually a whole heap of sightings and encounters that are so similar to these really, really well-known ones up in the States and through the UK and Europe and stuff. So that kind of blew my mind a little bit too.
Yeah, missing livestock and all that kind of stuff, and then right footprints being seen. So there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, man, for real. So hey, for any of our followers that are jumping in right now, why don't we just kind of enlighten everyone into what a Yowie is, because I'm sure there's a lot of people over in America. We have a lot of contacts over there and followers over in the States, and not so many kind of down this end of town. So why don't we tell everyone, give everyone a bit of an idea of what Yowies are in comparison?
Cool. So the Yowie is basically Australia's version of Bigfoot. There is a bit of difference between them, and this is kind of what we're talking about today, as to why we've got those differences possibly. This is kind of our theory. We have two types of Yowies that have been recorded. The first ones are like the hairy men. So they are very normal people. They are very human-like in appearance, broad noses, dark eyes, kind of a pronounced brow. So they have a very similar structure to body structure to people. Like the on them.
Some women.
Oh yeah, God! And they range from like 6 to 9 feet and like long, shaggy hair. Yeah. So these ones are nicer.
I just knew this live was going to be funny. Oh my God, we've already been through beavers and women that look like hairy Bigfoot.
Yeah, wait till I show you the Yowie picture. So these type 1 Yowies are said to be really shy, and they observe humans kind of from way back. Their behaviours are generally just like, they're kind of like what, but then kind of aggressive way, curious. We have the type 2 Yowie. They're called giant hairy or ape monsters. So they're more holistic in nature, and they're a lot larger, a lot more robust. Like ranges between 9 to 12 feet. They're described as having very muscular body, really long arms, really long legs, kind of like fingers. This is where the difference comes. They have long claws and fangs. So that is usually a kind of difference between the American Sasquatch or Bigfoot. I don't really think any. It could be like giant. So a lot more aggressive, way more aggressive. These are the ones that have said to have been attacked livestock, people, and just very territorial.
I don't think I've ever heard stories of Bigfoot with fangs.
No.
I think the Yowie is the only one, and even talking Yetis or the Yerin or anyone around different parts of the world, I don't think I've ever heard of any of these kind of hairy men or these wild men that have had fangs apart from the Yowies.
Yeah. That kind of got me thinking as to, because we talk about how everything can kind of come down on that thread. We talk about it all the time. Have they come down? They've gone different ways. The split, they've gone aggressive way, the more human-like way. So it's like the one that one type that has been split, or there were 2 types that came over, types that kind of came over.
Yeah, interesting. So are these fangs and maybe you don't know this answer, are we talking like kind of dog canines, or are we talking bigger than that?
Quite long, like the pictures that have been done, like the fangs come right there. Let me hang on. I have a
because that could be a connection to. I'm just thinking about the connection between Bigfoot and Dogman, right? And these sort of creatures and Dogman. Is there a genetic connection between them? And I know that sounds crazy, but I do know that there are stories of Bigfoot, for example, different levels of Bigfoot or numbers, if you will, of Bigfoot walking on all fours, right? Not being bipedal.
Like in a spider, like almost like a spider.
Sure.
So the pictures come up now. I don't know if you see this, Lisa.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So just wait for that to come up on Instagram.
Yeah, just leave it there for a bit. So you can see the big long fangs there. So it's long, and the body shape seems to be different as to how American Bigfoot are described. This is kind of how they're described. Their feet are way bigger. The arms seem to be a bit longer, really long fingers and the claws.
Yeah. That's so interesting. So Mike on YouTube here from Tactical Bigfoot Research has just said if you look at the Bigfoot types from a few years back, you can find some large canine teeth descriptions as well. So whether or not it's these sort of level fangs or smaller as far as that kind of dogman fangs go, but I think there's a really interesting connection there. And I know we've talked to a few people about the theory behind Bigfoot and military programs and genetic modification and all that sort of stuff. Yep. And I do wonder if somebody went, oh, this is a great idea. Let's create a human Bigfoot, human ape dog hybrid.
Yeah.
How far-fetched is that?
Don't know these days.
Well, we've seen women that look.
Right. So like some of the theories, like I kind of like going down that line and going, okay, why would they have fangs? Why would they have really long claws? And I've been thinking about the Australian stuff would be here in Australia, and a lot of Australian animals burrow. So they go under our sun here is so hot, we'll basically burrow. So we've got like shrews and that will go underground, hide in trees. So I'm thinking, is that reasons why they have long claws? They could be like terrifying, but just for a people think of being able to dig out the burrow, kind of rip the trees apart to their prey. So that is one of the things that kind of comes into my head as why they would have extremely long claws. And the one is with fangs. Are these type 2 yowies more carnivorous than they are omnivore? So it's like, is it that they need more than what they need? The plants and the bugs and the dairy and that kind of
sure.
Kind of evolution that kind of made them, go more carnivorous. Because if you look at the Australian here, like the dry areas, there's not that much food.
Like as in flora and fauna versus meat.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah. So, you would probably pass better on, kangaroos and
sure.
and wombats and that.
Yeah, I think that could be a good theory based around their ecosystem and kind of what they would normally use as prey and eat and that sort of stuff. And you're going to need claws and you're going to need some form of pretty massive teeth. I don't know if fangs do that job, but like saber-tooth
they're more for spearing, so that's what I mean. So more it'd be like the fangs are really used for when they're hunting, isn't it? They grab onto prey.
Sure.
So that would work.
Well, if you're looking at kangaroos, for sure, they are fast animals and they're very strong. They've got pretty strong hind legs and that sort of stuff. And you've seen those videos of a guy fighting a kangaroo and trying to save his dog and putting him in a headlock and that sort of basic stuff. They're pretty full-on animals if you're going after a male or a female kind of mature aged animal, right? So yeah, having those fangs in there to be able to jump on there and rip and tear makes sense.
Yeah. You can understand the type 1 gene thing and more land. So this is kind of some of the research that we're looking into is that. So then they would have a lot more access to the flora of like berries and fruits, all that kind of stuff that they can eat. So maybe that difference of which way they went, maybe kind of more harsher countries, whereas difference to the bush.
Yeah, absolutely. And big difference between America landscape and Australia landscape and New Zealand landscape and Australia.
Yeah,
totally different, right? You're talking like rainforest and desert versus lush green forestry, pines, that sort of stuff. Which makes sense that the Bigfoot that we've seen in New Zealand don't have fangs. They're not super big. They have a similar look to the Bigfoot in America, but they certainly don't look like Yowies in any way, shape, or form. Like, I love that picture that you put up, because it really shows how ridiculous size their feet are in comparison to the rest of their body. They're really awkward, right?
Very awkward looking. And that's probably because of the terrain that we have here. But they are quite different. These pictures out of where they're quite different. And the shape of the body.
And it's something that I find interesting, because we've got the orang pendek up in Indonesia as well, right? And you think that there's a connection, there should be a connection between the Yowie and the Indonesian Bigfoot, but they don't look similar at all. And in all things considered, the orang pendek looks more like the Moiho man, the Bigfoot in New Zealand, than he does the Yowie, right? Like, they look really similar as far as that short stature goes, and the sunken eyes, and the short hair. Apart from the hair color, maybe, like, they have that kind of rusty, orangey kind of fur. I know that Yowies have been
due to habitat and stuff like that, isn't it? You know, it's like same as Yowie. Associated a lot of red kind of rusty colors here, but they have these been black and brown and lighter colors.
Yeah, a lot of different colors, right? Yeah, so interesting. So, hey, thank you for giving us that description. I was just kind of like, I'm sure there's people out there that are like, Yowie, I'm not quite sure who that is. And like I said, for a long time, we didn't realize that there was actually many cryptids in the South Pacific. We actually thought that, we're going to start Cryptid Women's Society, but we'll have to talk about American cryptids because there's nothing down here. And as we started researching, right, there was just so many. Yeah, so many. It was crazy.
Well, the Yowie here, they used to be called a Yahoo, but I think that's kind of come through a European one as well. But there is so many different names for the Yowie here in Australia. There are actually up to 300 Aboriginal languages here.
How many? Sorry, say that again, Juliet.
300 languages.
300.
Yeah. So, and some of these languages are becoming extinct. So this is the latest. So they all have their own version of what the Yowie looks like, whether who's good or bad, and just their version of it. So it's very, very hard to get a kind of research because it's different. Like the Quinquin. And then they also use some of them as the Yaramahu. So it's really interesting. There's another one that I found out about was called, where is he? Sorry, he was a Tamparuli Yowie. Now, this is said to be a huge cannibalistic quinquin, a man-eating giant. So he's a new one that I've found out about. And he is he is said to be up to like 3 meters tall, and basically would come in and eat the villagers, take men, women, children. And so he's something that I want to research. He's pretty terrifying.
Far out. So I have never heard of him before. But is he a hybrid between, I don't know, a Bigfoot and a giant?
Well, that's what he comes under. He does come under kind of, they talk about this giant quinquin. So he's kind of quite unique from what I've heard. So he's quite unique. And they do mention like he is a giant, that he is like way bigger than the others. So it's like, what was he? Was he a Yowie, or was he a giant that was here? Or it's he's definitely something that I am going to be researching more of. So mute. Can't hear you.
I did it. Ah. Sorry, trying to be technical. And so where was he based in Australia?
Tamperuli, up north. So yeah, so a lot of Yowie sightings and stuff like that are all coming down, like the East Coast, like from Queensland, New South Wales, and Victoria. That is where you get your majority of them. But the bigger they are, the further north, and that just goes for all Australian stuff. You want bigger spiders, bigger snakes, bigger crocodiles. The further north you go, the bigger they all get. And everybody knows that.
And everyone knows that. Yeah. Damn giant spiders. I think I've fixed Juliet's speaker, so that's pretty awesome. So cool. Well, feel free to drop some comments into the Instagram chat or into the YouTube chat if you've got any questions or comments as we kind of tick on through this stuff, and let's have a bit of a chat.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about the Bigfoot. I will tell you my story after. Like, I've got a story here of the Sandy Creek Yowie that we went to visit in Queensland, so we can watch that after.
Sorry, hold on 1 second while I just find my wee little list of.
Or shall I just do it now?
Yeah, well, it seems like I've lost the thing that I wanted to talk about, so that's pretty cool.
All right, you find out I'll do the Sandy Creek one. Okay, so when Lisa and I went to Queensland, we visited Kilcoy, which is like basically the Yowie capital of Australia. So there, in this one area and kind of surrounding areas, there have been tens of thousands of sightings, basically dating right back to the early 1840s. And then you've got all the Aboriginal, and then, you know, all of their stories and stuff. So the reason this town became quite famous and has put up this Yowie statue, which I find, is because two boys were out hunting. Oh, hang on, let me put this first Yowie picture up, and then everyone can see it. Image. So yeah, Lisa and I were right. So here's the first Yowie picture. So there were 3 statues made. So this is the second statue that was made. Excuse the woolly. So Warren Christensen.
Oh, wait, hang on, hold on. This is the best picture ever. We just wait for this to pop up on Instagram so everyone can share and bask in its glory.
So this is the elusive Yowie from Kilcoy. So this statue is no longer there. Basically, number one, somebody broke off his appendage and ran off with it. And then there was some other reason why they took him down. So they ended up taking him down and rebuilding another statue. I'll leave this one up for a little bit, and I'll show you the new statue. But you can see like the
wait, hold on. Sorry, Jules, to interrupt you. This is the second time Juliet has talked about appendages going missing. And I know, excuse me, yeah, there was an episode last week that we talked about, and potentially the week before, where she spoke about appendages going missing. So I feel like I've passed the torch over to Juliet, and she is owning that.
This is the phallus talk. Oh, funny. So yeah, so Warren Christensen and Tony Solano were out pig hunting. They were two young men. So they were out pig hunting. They had a .22 rifle on them when they heard like these thumping footsteps about 200 meters away from them. When the Yowie eventually came into view, it was only about 20 meters away. They basically got so scared that they shot the creature, and they claimed that they actually hit the creature. They went to try and shoot it again, but it ran away too fast. So being experienced in the kind of the local woodlands, they tried to track it. But as they were going through the bush, they realized that this creature had literally doubled back on them and was basically stalking them from behind. So they retreated down to what is like Sandy Creek to keep an open line of fire in case it attacked, and then made their way back to the town. They described this creature as a dark, dirty brown color, standing about 3 meters tall, which is pretty bloody tall. They returned home and told their school teacher. So these were like college boys. Told them about the ordeal, and then they took the teacher to the scene where they end up taking like plaster molds of footprints and kind of tried to follow the tracks again. They reckon that the track, one of them measured 50 centimeters long and 15 centimeters wide. So
Wow.
it was, yeah. So it was quite a big beastie. So this is the new Yowie that has been made. So this is the one that Lisa and I saw in Kilcoy. But you can see there's quite a difference between the two images. This one's like its mouth is a lot smaller, everything's a lot smaller, whereas the other one was made kind of true to what they said it looked like, with a really, really large mouth and really kind of deep set eyes and stuff like that. So I'm not sure, has that been gone through to?
Yep, that's on YouTube, on Instagram now. Yeah, you're right. He is totally different.
Quite different. Very, very different. Yeah. Yeah. So,
and even like the length of his arms, the stature of him, like, yeah, totally different.
Yeah. So so it's pretty cool. So, but I mean, there's like so many different areas in Australia, where there's been a lot of South Yowie sightings, but as we said, Kilcoy calls itself the Yowie capital, and they have literally just had thousands and thousands of sightings in that area. So yeah, so the earliest recorded sighting is by British colonies in 1840. So
and I know, Jules, when we went there, the gentleman that we were speaking to in the information site was telling us that the Yowie had a mane down his back.
Yeah.
Remember, he was talking about how he looked like he had this kind of giant mane.
Almost like a lion mane, yeah, running down his back. Yeah, which is
yeah.
And I think you hear occasionally about Bigfoot having the same thing, having a lot of long kind of hair and shaggy hair. So
yeah, absolutely. Hey, there's a couple of comments. Let's just run through these ones on Instagram. Kelsey says, do they have a particular call or vocalization to listen out for?
Yahoo. That's why they end up being called the Yahoo, because apparently they give out this Yahoo kind of sound, and it's kind of long. Even though they're saying that the word Yahoo came from colonization, a British person, I think it was, and that was kind of used. Then it kind of got used around the world, basically, to describe wild men and also wild native people and stuff like that. So in some areas it's quite a derogative term, so yeah, so it's pretty thingy, but it was really really interesting. But it's that same thing, the Yahoo, the long calls, not too dissimilar to Bigfoot, but I seem like the ones that I listen to, they seem to be quite high pitched. I don't know. So
yeah, well, I mean, different creatures, aren't they? They're different. And it's interesting because in Australia you have a hell of a lot of high pitched animal calls, right? You listen to the kookaburra or any of those birds, cockatoos, that sort of stuff. So are they mimicking? And I know, Bigfoot creatures are said to mimic the sounds that they hear. So is that close to a mimic that they're doing?
Yeah, they are known to mimic. So there are encounters where they were mimicking like other animals and stuff like that, and possibly birds. So I can't tell you right off the head what they're actually mimicking, but I have read reports where they have talked about them mimicking, and so hunters and stuff kind of going and being like, wow, okay, that's not what I was looking for.
That's not right, but
that's not right. Yeah. And the other thing here is, like, in the outback here, we have a lot of wild pigs, like a lot of wild pigs, and they are big. So, they would probably be on, their food chain as well, I suppose, and you want to attack a wild pig, we all know what they're like. They're pretty nasty, so pretty dangerous. Yeah.
Well, that's very much fangs on fangs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good point.
Might be the Mothman, but what are we talking about? The Yowie appendage.
Oh yeah, how about we read through those ones real quick?
Well, that was the first time I've actually found a photo of the the second original one with his appendage still attached. So most of them have been not attached.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because like it's just funny. I'm like, really? No wonder somebody stole it. It's like and then it gives you the questions of, did they see that? Like, did the boys see his appendage? And I know that there are stories of like seeing full, you see his genitalia and everything, like full kind of muscular everything.
Well, it's not like they're running around wearing a loincloth, is it? Or like little pasties.
I'm like, I know. I mean, like, and this brings up like, what was our question last week of what would you do? Like, who are we talking to? What would you do if you saw a Bigfoot? Who are we talking to? Oh, we're talking to Lewis.
That's right.
What would you do if you saw a Bigfoot? And we're cracking up laughing, going, oh, we'd probably have a chat with him, or, we'd pee our pants and run away. But if you saw an appendage, then what would you do?
You're like, dude, put it away.
Wow, I'm impressed. Like, you deserve a high five.
So when we aim to throw those rocks back, if they throw them at us, we just make sure we aim higher. Because that would really upset them.
Oh God, it's just all right. Shall we move on?
Right, now it's for Lisa's appendage time.
Oh, good Lord. I have no appendages, I'll have you know, okay?
All right, next week will be a no appendage week. What are we doing? I don't even know what we're doing.
Oh, do you know what we're doing next week? Mothman.
It's going to be butts.
It's going to be butt week.
It's going to be butt week. There you go, Mike.
Just for you, buddy. Just for you. Well, hey, so I've got actually a really good little kind of response on Quora from a guy called Jeff Cox, who kind of spells out the different types of Bigfoot and Sasquatch. And I thought I'll just have a quick read through that, because I don't really know this stuff. Like, I know the Yowie stuff and the Moiho stuff, but the American Bigfoot stuff I've kind of learned along the way here. So Jeff says he's a long-term researcher and student of Bigfoot phenomena. So good on Jeff. Love your work. And he says it's believed that there are at least 4, maybe 5 different Bigfoot species in North America. And I'm sure that Mike from Tactical Bigfoot over on YouTube can comment on this and tell us whether or not it's correct or not quite on it. So I'll read it and you let us know what you think, yeah? While some types will only be found in particular areas, some types will be found in several different areas. The main 2 types, the ones most commonly seen and reported, would be type 1, and that's most commonly identified as living in the Pacific Northwest of America, and type 3, which seems to be the most common across the South. He says all of the types, it seems that these 2 can live near each other without much bickering. They appear to, we don't know about this, but okay. Maybe there is some bickering going on. They appear to be able to assign a line that separates them, like a roadway or a creek, and will keep to their respective sides. I don't know, because I've got a little bit more about Bigfoot wars. And they sure as hell didn't stick to their own friggin' sides, did they? So I'm not sure that Jeff knows everything about it. But anyway, Jeff's written a good article. He said, according to many researchers and eyewitnesses, the type 1s are scattered across the country. In some areas, they appear dominant, and in others, the type 3 will be nearby and seemingly dominant in numbers. So they have little pockets, whereas type 1 seems to just kind of be across everywhere. Yeah. He says type 3 is the chimp-like Sasquatch creature that stands around 7 feet tall. And appears to weigh around 400 to 500 pounds, so about the 200, 300 kg.
So that's really interesting because all the non-aggressive ones seem to be more ape-like in some instances, but whereas the Yowie, the more human-like ones, but like the more apey ones are like got that aggressive gene, don't they? They seem to have that aggressive gene.
So he says these are found in like kind of across Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi. And he said the type 3 are often reported to have human-like faces, but most are said to have an evil, like chimp face. Because they're angry, like you said.
Yeah.
He said Bigfoot creatures, these adult male Bigfoot creatures will range from 7 to 9 foot in most cases, but occasionally you'll hear reports about huge creatures that appear to be around 11 to 12 foot, which fits in with your Yowie account of the new one that you were talking about, those quite tall ones, hey?
Yeah. And you know, from listening to the research and stuff, the Alaskan ones are a lot bigger, and they talk about them coming down. So
yes, absolutely. He talks about how fast they can go and keep up with vehicles around that 45 miles per hour. So we're talking like a good kind of 100. Are you telling me something, Jules? Because I can't see you.
No.
Oh, sorry. Looking at you talk on YouTube, on Instagram, you're a bit far.
It's a little bit behind.
I don't know. So yeah, they talk about how the speed that they can run out, which is pretty amazing speed, and evidently these creatures are on all fours. So there's a lot of sightings of type 3s being able to drop to all fours and boot it, whereas type 1s tend to stand straight up. There's this type 2 is the swamp ape. These creatures are often reported to resemble orangutans. The hair, the color, stooped over appearance is what reminds people of being an orangutan. Type 2 swamp apes.
Yeah. They're more south, aren't they? Are they more south, the swamp apes?
Yeah, I think so.
Right,
yeah, Louisiana
and around that way. Yeah. So they're kind of in that area. Yeah.
He says over in the eastern USA lives type 4, which often resembles a caveman. It also commonly looks very human in the face, has a temperament much like type 3, grumpy. While they typically don't attack humans or harm them, they'll pick up huge boulders and toss them at humans if they wander into their domain. So I thought that was really interesting because, look, I don't know much about it, and I don't want to say that Jeff is right or wrong, but I kind of figured let's just put it out there and see who comes back with the right information.
There's definitely the different types through there. I actually read a story or listened to a story about swamp apes and a young guy that was basically in a pretty rough home, and he basically, his dad came home drunk and used to hit them and stuff, and so he basically escaped and ran out into the bush. He was running down the road. And so it was either his dad or his stepdad was following him, and he knew he had to get away from him because he was, just kind of basically losing his shit. And then he ended up falling down the bank. So this is kind of like out in the country type thing. So he ended up falling down the bank into the swamps and stuff. And so he was hiding. So he was trying to run away. And he basically got himself into trouble and was rescued by a Bigfoot. So it basically came in and took him, and then took him kind of to safety to a dry area, and basically just kind of dropped him off. And yeah.
And there's stories like that, right? Of kids wandering into the bush and being looked after by Bigfoot.
Yeah.
and then drop somewhere else and back into safety. So I found that really interesting. And I mean, there's so much information on American Bigfoot and Sasquatch and different species and versions of all of these hairy wild men. So you can always go and do your own research into that. And man, what a rabbit hole to go down.
It's too much. But I think that the one thing that nobody really talks about, and I think we should probably do a show on this, is like the not so nice encounters, the aggressive attacks, the missing people and all that, because that is a very big part of it as well. Even here in Australia, there are a lot of people go missing every single year. And it is said that some of these are put down to possible Yowie encounters and attacks and stuff like that, as they are in America. It's not just Bigfoot, you've got Dogman and all of that kind of stuff over there. So there are some really terrifying, we watched some documentaries and there are some terrifying encounters.
Yeah. I've heard a fair few stories from some of our followers and people that we're connected with over in the States, in regards to hunters going out and that sort of stuff and having really scary encounters. And one of the things, and I kind of went down this American Sasquatch rabbit hole, and I was like, where am I going to go with this? Because there's just so much info. But basically I started with Paddy, right? I was like, let's go to the Patterson Gimlin film. It's so well known, renowned, famous film of 60 seconds of these guys filming what we now call Paddy. There's a whole heap of controversy around it. Is it real? Is it a hoax? And nobody's come forward as far as the two guys that filmed it. They haven't come forward and said, yeah, it's a hoax and sorry about that and everything else. And so, yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Juliet?
Well, they did a big study. It was investigated and it was researched, and they've basically released it that it is not, the scientists and stuff have come back and they don't believe it's a hoax because of the way that it was filmed and stuff. It was released, I think, quite a few years back now. Well, not quite, but a few years back now.
Yeah.
That it's like they literally went through frame by frame and kind of got to the point, everything from the soles of your feet to everything else. It's pretty much, as far as they're concerned, it is real footage.
Yeah. So I watched a wee little documentary yesterday of some guys who did prop mastery for Hollywood, right? And we know Hollywood's pretty good at concocting stories like space, NASA.
Moon landing.
Like believable sort of stuff. And these guys went through and tried to debunk it. And I found some of their points really interesting, right? There's a document that's come out that's been put together by a couple of guys who basically went around and got all the anecdotal evidence from people in that group that said, I was the guy in the suit. I sold him this. He used my gorilla suit. This sort of stuff. And so it's 10 or whatever guys talking about their anecdotal evidence and put together into this kind of, it was a hoax. So I thought it's really interesting because you always, as a cryptozoologist or a ufologist or a paranormal investigator, it's so easy to go, yes, it's totally real, it's totally true. There's no debunking here. Just let's go with it because that's so exciting and we desperately want things to be real, right? Desperately want things to be real. And it's so important, right? It's so important that we are skeptical about things and that we are non-biased and we look at all options and see if we can break through that.
Yeah. So who's Bill Munns? Was he the guy that did
So Tactical Bigfoot Research has said a lot of those stories started during the pandemic with multiple podcasts, 100%. And he said all not and Bill Munns. Don't know. Tell us who Bill is. I can't remember, maybe it's one of these guys that has come in and said that he was the fella in the suit who was Paddy. Couple of comments over here on Instagram, Jules.
Yeah.
He says, are any of them related to great apes? They all seem to have the same sort of features and characteristics.
Well, this is what everyone, I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? Are they related to apes, or are they early humanoid like Neanderthals, or that kind of thing? I suppose until one is captured. Or like, can you give us a blood test without shooting them? We're not going to know.
Well, I guess, or like the DNA that research groups have gone out and taken that eDNA from the water sources and stuff, right, have shown some form of ape DNA,
ape DNA,
and then something else that's not being able to be recognized. So I guess there's a big gap there, and I think Kelsey's right though when she says it kind of, you've got that King Kong feel, you've got these big giant kind of ape feet, and then you've got these other versions of human feet that are just friggin' giant. And we've got these casts, these plaster casts that people go out and cast of these footprints, and they're huge, right? They're absolutely enormous.
It's I mean, it literally is. Until we actually capture one, I don't think there's going to be any kind of real kind of connection there. But I do like what you're saying about how they've got the different, there's been gorilla DNA, there's been orangutan DNA, there's been a chimpanzee type DNA that have been brought up, and then like saying, then there's this other one which is not part of like human, which is kind of like a little off the wall. So that in itself is kind of interesting, because that could give credence to like there's like different types of them. If you've got 3 different types of apes that are kind of coming up on this DNA, one's kind of showing more to this one. This is, this has got gorilla type, and the behaviors, that people find, with the nesting, making nests, and, all this kind of stuff. So, which is very gorilla behavior and primate kind of behavior. So, I don't know. It's literally going to be one of those things that we're just not going to know until we actually physically get a sample.
Yeah, and with the likes of, AI coming out, you can't even believe the videos that you're seeing now. You can't, it's just crazy town, right? So that's why Julia and I were talking the other day about getting boots on the ground, and we can't wait to start getting out there more regularly and kind of doing this sort of research and really getting into it and searching for these lost animals, for these elusive little mysterious animals out there. So
find the nice ones, just putting out to the universe. We'd like to find the nice ones, the friendly ones.
100%. Hey, so I love that you brought up the stories around scary Bigfoot encounters, right? Because one of the things that I wrote was, and one of the questions that was kind of on my mind for this conversation was, why are Yowies angrier than Bigfoot? Right? Kind of my question that was floating around. And I was thinking to myself, we always get labeled with it. And somebody wrote on a Facebook thread the other day, Australia is where the devil keeps his pets.
Fair call.
Fair true on there. Yeah, fair call. Yeah. But also, like these animals are beautiful as well, and they just get given a real rough name, right? And so I thought, hang on a second, can I save the Yowies from getting this bloody label, right? That's not really fair. I wouldn't mind meeting a Yowie. I'm pretty sure he'd be pretty friendly with his fangs and his claws and, just all of that. I think he'd be friendly. And so what I did is I went down this rabbit hole of trying to find evidence that American Bigfoots were just as aggressive or even more aggressive, right? So this is where we went.
Oh, Lordy, here we go.
So one of the stories I found was the Lafleur County Bigfoot War of 1855. Have you heard about that one, Drew?
No, see you, Mike. Mike's running. See you, Mike. Bye.
Hey, fella. See you, matey potato. Thanks for joining us. Love ya.
Okay, so what did you say? I wasn't listening.
Thanks. This is what happens every day. We have business meetings, and she's like, "What did we just talk about?"
What are we talking about?
Oh God. I was talking about the story of the Lafleur County Bigfoot War of 1855. Have you heard about it?
No.
Well, let me enlighten you. Let me enlighten you. And just, take into account, this is one perspective, one story. I'm sure there's other information that would change the story and alter it as well. So don't come back to us and be like, you got it wrong. Okay, so just bear with us. But if you've got any comments, please drop them in there and tell us where we've gone wrong or add to.
If you know about it, yeah.
100%. Okay, so around 1855, the Choctaws in present-day Lafleur County, the Choctaws were the Native American tribe there. This is in Oklahoma, and farmers in present-day Arkansas experienced a series of unsettling events. Initially, it was theft of things like vegetables, livestock, and other food items was occurring. They were taken stealthily, like little ninjas in the night, stealing things. They were never seen. The thieves were never seen, and they only operated at night. So totally nocturnal, right? These thieves were clever, and they avoided all of the Native American camps where when a watchman was present, and they avoided traps set by the farmers outside the Choctaw territory. So really, really clever, super intelligent, right? Basically, the situation escalated from petty thefts to more serious concerns when women and children began to disappear. And we actually were told about this kind of this sort of story by Joe from Ancient Enigma Files when we were talking about Yowies with him. And he kind of jumped in and mentioned this sort of stuff, but I didn't realize it was the same sort of story. So I found this really interesting. A group of 30 Choctaw cavalrymen or horse riders was organized to pursue the kidnappers, right? They still thought this was a different tribe of Native Americans or, naughty people.
Yeah.
So the search party was led by a guy called Joshua Lafleur, named after the county, maybe not after Joshua, but after his affluent family. He was a well-respected man, and he was mixed Choctaw, Native Indian, and French heritage. So joining the search was a warrior named Hamas Tubby. And he joined with his 6 sons. And one of the coolest things about him and his 6 sons was the size and the strength of these guys, right? They were all at least 7 foot tall, and they all weighed over 300 pounds. So that's like a good kind of 150.
Oh,
massive, right? These guys were known as the light horsemen. They were highly skilled in mounted warfare despite their large stature. So they were almost semi-giants, right? They were huge.
Oh, horses. They must have had big horses.
Big horses, right? Yeah. So the group, who was heavily armed, set out, which is now the McCurtain County Wilderness area, to locate the kidnappers. After a day's ride, the searchers reached the suspected hiding place of the bandits, where Joshua Lafleur, using a spyglass, sure it's that, spotted something and ordered his men to charge towards the stand of pines, all the pine trees. As they approached, the men encountered an overpowering stench of decay, causing most horses to panic, tossing off their riders, getting rid of everyone, running away, except those that were ridden by Lafleur and the Tubby family, right? So the father and his 6 sons. These are the only guys left on horseback. Only Lafleur and the Tubby men proceeded, eventually finding, disclaimer, don't listen if you don't want grossity. Only Lafleur and the Tubby men proceeded, eventually finding a mound scattered with the decomposing bodies of women and children. They spotted several of the kidnappers fleeing into the tree line, but 3 attackers stood their ground. So everyone else ran away, but these 3 kidnappers stood their ground. To their shock, the 3 were not human, but large, hairy ape-like creatures snarling and beating their chests, like what Kelsey's saying over on Instagram in regards to the giant ape kind of.
Yeah.
LaFleur, undeterred, drew his pistol and saber and charged. His horse struck dead. His horse was struck dead instantly by one of the creature's powerful blows. LaFleur quickly recovered, shooting the creature multiple times and then attacking it with his saber, his sword, inflicting several wounds as the creature roared in pain. Now, I don't know how much of this part is true, but let's go with the story because it's pretty freaking cool. A second ape-like creature got behind LaFleur and killed him by decapitating him. So LaFleur is a goner. This brutal act spurred the Tubby warriors into action, and they shot 2 of the creatures dead with rifles. The third creature was wounded and attempted to flee, but one of the sons, he was 18 years old, pursued and killed it with a hunting knife. Upon reuniting, the light horsemen, so the Tubby brothers, the family, and some of the other horsemen that went with them, observed the area littered with the partially eaten bodies of women and children. Overwhelmed by the stench, many of the men vomited before burying the human remains of and Joshua LaFleur's body. The Choctaw warriors burned the bodies of the 3 creatures on a large bonfire. And this part here, as kind of mundane as that sounds, it actually connected with me because I've heard stories about iwis or tribes in New Zealand finding giants, killing giants. The giants used to be chiefs of the iwi and the tribes, and then they would burn them in giant bonfires. And I went, oh, I wonder if there's a connection there between the indigenous cultures. The warriors returned to Tuskahoma, where the surviving Tubby men reportedly suffered from nightmares for years following the encounters, which, yeah, fair enough too. So what do you think about that story, Jules?
Wow, that's pretty intense, isn't it? And there's stories like that all over the world of these encounters, of these horrific encounters and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
And that plays into that, the cannibalistic, like the Tamperuli. So he was seen as this giant cannibalistic man-eating creature. And going back, a lot of these tribes, there were a lot of tribes of Native people that were cannibalistic as well.
Yes.
So it's So that's really really interesting.
I've got a bit more to this, and this brings like research into it a little bit more. So obviously that's a story, right? How much validity is in that story? Can't tell you. But I then read this, right? So I wrote, what really happened? There's speculation that the LaFleur County incident may actually be based on an event in Kiowa territory, according to Bigfoot researcher Jim King, right? And you can research him. He's actually a cool dude. King recounts a story from the Kiowa elder describing ape-like creatures drawn to the scent of menstruating women, so women that are on their periods, placed in a sorry?
They're placed in huts away from the other people.
At the edge of the Kiowa camps, which is what Joe was talking about, right?
Yeah.
These creatures reportedly entered the tent on multiple occasions and carried off women. In response, Kiowa leaders organized a group of warriors who tracked down an ape's lair and killed the entire family group of the creatures. So there's potentially a couple of corroborating stories that could be taken to be factual on some perspective, right?
Yeah. It's pretty, it's pretty gnarly. But I mean, there's even the same stories here, with the Aboriginals where they talk about these Yowies or these hairy men coming in and basically taking women and children, eating their dogs, and and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely.
Dogs disappearing, right? They like
Yeah.
taste of dogs, especially Yowies, eh?
Yeah, and because the dogs will alert them, so they kill the dogs and get rid of the dogs, and then they can kind of do their own.
Yeah, into way. So I kind of read that story and just went, "Oh, okay, we're going down a rabbit hole. Do you want to hear another one?"
Is it a bad one?
Sure. They're pretty well known, and I think on our YouTube chat here, Susie said that she's just run it. She's just read it. So she just read that story. So stoked that you've heard that one. But
yeah, I mean, because that's it. There's almost like this romantic thing. Not so much a romantic thing, but there's like this thing about this Bigfoot being this ethereal creature, and he's evil spirit and stuff like this. But man, there are so many other things that this creature is doing, and so many attacks, and it's pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick, Joel from History Peros just joined us over on Instagram. Hey, fella. Hello. So let me read the story to you and tell me what you think about this exciting story.
Susie Monster's going, I can't slack anymore or stay awake. There must be a swag. Have a great night. See ya.
See you, babes. We love you. Love. So Susie is actually one of our members at Cryptid Women's Society. So if you're thinking about how do I get in touch with these girls and hang out with them more, grab yourself a membership over at cryptidwomensociety.com. Anyway, so, okay, the second story, and this is my last story. I could go on forever. This is my last story. The Battle of Ape Canyon. Have you heard of that one, Juliet?
Yes, it's a very popular story. It's well known. Yeah.
So a violent encounter between a group of miners and Bigfoot. So let's read through this for anyone that doesn't know these stories. And maybe Juliet wants to back up an Australian Yowie story with a Yowie being aggressive and eating someone. I don't know. Anyway, all right. So in July of 1924, a group of gold prospectors set up in a cabin on Mount St. Helens in Washington, planning to stay for several days to search for gold. And we hear stories about gold miners all the time, right? Bucket loads of stories up in Thames, in Moiho Mountain, in New Zealand, of these gold miners being absolutely hammered. And when I say hammered, I mean dragged out of their cabins and disappearing into the woods. Hundreds of people go missing because they were told don't go up there and search for gold by the elders, and they went up there and they were murdered, right? Ripped to pieces. Anyway, these guys did it too. So the prospectors had an unsettling feeling of being watched throughout their stay. They discovered unusual signs around their cabin, including large footprints far bigger than human feet. The miners occasionally saw dark-haired creatures from a distance, obscured by the dense forest. So they knew that there was some stuff going on up here, but they weren't willing to give up their gold prospects, right? Money is gold. Money is way better than common sense, right? So it says on Friday, July the 11th, the miners ventured up Mount St. Helens in search of gold. While walking along a narrow mountain path, they suddenly encountered a group of 4 massive ape-like creatures, all about 8 feet tall, which is pretty massive, right? 3 meters or so. Both groups froze, staring at each other until one of the creatures let out a loud roaring sound. In a moment of panic, one of the miners fired his rifle at one of the creatures, hitting it 4 times. Moment of panic. He panicked 4 times. I mean, like, come on. Causing it to fall from the mountain. The miners then rushed back to their cabin, locking themselves inside for protection. That night, the creatures, they would have been shitting themselves, right?
Yeah.
So that night, the creatures attacked the cabin, breaking parts of the roof and hurling boulders and stones. The group leader was injured and knocked unconscious by a stone during the attack. After and during the night, the miners escaped to the city and reported the incident. The area where the event took place is now called Ape Canyon, and the incident is known as the Battle of Ape Canyon.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, well, they started it though. They probably shot and killed one of them, so he fell over the cliff. So yeah,
and that's it. It's I don't know if these Bigfoot creatures and Yowie creatures go after people versus
they're defending their territory. Yeah, and that's what they reckon. You know, a lot of these encounters could be them protecting their young. You know, like a bear does, or any any wild animal or people will do. You know, you'll protect the but you got to look at it. So I mean, you probably get these family groups, but there'd be a lot of males that would be wandering around, because you think about it, the males are basically sent off. I don't know if there's many records of when they're talking about large groups, are there actually more than one male there? It always just seems to be the one male and the other one's going to shut this.
It's kind of like how do their family units work? Is it like
exactly
family unit where the lion goes off and impregnates other females to keep procreating, or is it a human family environment where you've got the mother and the father and then their
that's what they seem to think? But then you've still got then you've got all these what they call bachelor males, I suppose. Where are they? What are they doing? These could be the ones, and there's good and bad and everything. There's rogue animals, there's all sorts of stuff. So it could be, any of these kind of creatures. And then the bachelor groups, you get groups of bachelors, like in different and primates, as well as lions and all that kind of stuff. They all kind of congregate in groups to be together. So is it that kind of thing that's going on as well? And they're just going, they're not been taught the manners, so they'll go and prey on people or whoever's around. So
we are not tasty.
Not tasty.
Yeah, man, that's so interesting. And I found a whole heap of other stuff on like military encounters and all sorts of other stuff, and Teddy Roosevelt and other things like that, as far as Bigfoot encounters through America. So to me, I'm kind of like, I don't think Yowies should hold this label that they are super aggressive and super angry and anything else, because there's all these accounts from the Northern Hemisphere of these Bigfoot creatures doing the same sort of stuff.
Yeah. So they're all the same. But I think, that's Australia, though, isn't it? Everyone sees Australia as a scary freaking island of everything that wants to kill you. And it does. But some of them are really cute.
Until you touch it. And then
it's
blowing up and you have to...
Yeah. Oh, look at the cute caterpillar. Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because we've had these conversations, right? She's like, Lisa, when we go to Canada, you can't pet a bear. And I'm like, of course I can. He's so fluffy. But it's more like, Lisa, when you come to Australia, don't touch that caterpillar.
Don't touch the caterpillar. If you lean up against something, you always look, check your shoes. We've had a few spiders. We've had a few nasty spiders in shoes here. They seem to go for my grandson's shoes. He's few times now he's had these massive spiders in his shoes.
Maybe there's a certain smell. They like the smell.
Smell of his feet.
It's so disgusting.
Oh no, Olga. Well, I'm gonna have to get going. This has been so much fun.
I'm stoked we managed to fix your audio, and I think it was actually my fault.
I tried to tell her that, but no, she kept blaming it on me. So.
So we are back. Yeah. Okay, a few things before we head out. Number one, we still have a promotion going, 2 for 1. If you want to get a membership to Cryptid Women's Society, now's the time to do it. Whatever you get, your bestie or your daughter or your sister or your mum or your auntie can get exactly the same what you have chosen, but for free. So now's the time to do that, because this puppy will not continue.
Christmas is coming, people.
What a great Christmas gift, 100%. We have got some really cool interviews being released pretty shortly. So those will go into Cryptid Women's Society membership. Got to have a membership to watch those. And if you're not watching the Lost Monster Files on Discovery Channel right now, you need to get in there.
For our American counterparts, yeah, we can't watch it here yet. We have been trying, but we can't find it here.
Yeah, it goes international 9th of November, I think, so pretty soon. So we're excited about that. If you're not watching it, do it now. Next week, we are talking Mothman.
And next week is my last one before I go to Egypt.
Make sure you tune in. Get in here with Miss Juliet. It is going to be an amazing chat. We'll talk about bottoms, I imagine.
Kissing Mothman's bottom.
Bucket list sort of stuff, right? Need to kiss the hiney. Thanks everyone for joining us. Juliet, do you have a sign off to say, or are you just
bye? No, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Absolutely had fun. I mean, Lisa and I can talk about Bigfoot and Yowies and stuff forever. We will definitely do a lot more on these guys, and we're doing a bit of research at the moment, so that will come out probably later on next year. And excited to kind of release stuff. We've got some pretty cool stuff coming up, and we are super excited.
Yeah.
So
heaps of stuff in the back.
Yeah,
heaps of stuff in the back.
Heaps of stuff in the background.
Cool. Well, we love you all. Thank you for your support, and we will see y'all same bat time, same bat channel next week.
Bye.
See you. Bye. We love y'all.
Bye.